Señor presidente, señores delegados. La disposición nueva de un continente de América está plasmada y resumida en el grito que día a día nuestras masas proclaman como expresión irrefutable de su decisión de lucha, paralizando la mano armada del invasor. Proclama que cuenta con la comprensión y el apoyo de todos los pueblos del mundo y especialmente del campo socialista encabezado por la Unión Soviética. Esa proclama es patria o muerte.
There is a face you have seen 1,000 times, even if you know nothing about the man it belongs to. It looks out from T-shirts, posters, book covers, and building walls. Some say it is the most reproduced image in the entire history of photography. The face is Ernesto Che Guevara, an Argentine doctor who became a revolutionary leader. He was one of the men who brought down the dictator of Cuba in 1959, and who spent the rest of his short life trying to spread revolution across Latin America and Africa. But here is the strange thing. The world knows his image far better than it knows the real man. So who was Che Guevara? Why does his face still appear decades after his death? And why do people disagree so strongly about him? That is the story we are about to tell. Ernesto Guevara was born in 1928 in Rosario, Argentina, the eldest of 5 children in a middle-class family. As a boy, he suffered from severe asthma, an illness that would follow him for life. But his parents refused to let him rest. They pushed him to read, to study, and to fight past the limits of his own lungs. At the age of 19, he entered the university in Buenos Aires to study medicine. He was a brilliant student, but the classroom was never enough. In 1951, he convinced his friend Alberto to join him on an old motorcycle to travel across South America. The bike broke down constantly, and the trip became one of the most famous journeys in modern history, the Motorcycle Diaries. For 9 months, the 2 young men rode through Argentina, Chile, Peru, Colombia, and beyond. They crossed the Andes, worked in a leper community beside the Amazon, and saw the extreme poverty of ordinary people. Guevara, the rich boy from Buenos Aires, called the trip a turning point. From then on, he said, Latin America became a single country in his heart, a country of the poor, and he wanted to change it. After graduation, the young doctor went north, first to Guatemala, where a democratically elected reformer was overthrown. Guevara watched the CIA-organized coup with his own eyes. It convinced him that peaceful change was impossible and that only a small, armed group of guerrillas could break the power of governments. In 1956, he set sail for Cuba with the exiled Cuban leader Fidel Castro aboard a small yacht called the Granma. The plan was for a surprise landing, but the boat was detected by the Cuban army, and the landing was a disaster. Only a small group of the survivors managed to climb into the mountains of the Sierra Maestra to continue the fight from hiding. For 2 years they lived hidden in the jungle and the mountains, slowly gathering an army. Guevara was the doctor of the unit, but he also proved to be a courageous fighter. He was the first man awarded the rank of commander. By late 1958, Castro's rebels had taken a central city. On the first day of 1959, the dictator Batista fled the island, and the revolutionaries entered Havana in triumph. Che Guevara became one of the most powerful men in the new Cuba. He was made president of the National Bank, later Minister of Industries. He signed the banknotes simply Che, a nickname, not his real name. A gesture, he said, money means nothing. The new government redistributed land from the large landowners to the peasants. It put the sugar industry in the hands of the state, built new factories, and a great literacy campaign taught hundreds of thousands of Cubans to read and write. Che declared that the revolution was not a single victory, but a permanent fight for a better world. But those same years were also dark. In the prison fortress of La Cabana in Havana, revolutionary tribunals tried the officers and informers of the old regime, and hundreds of people faced firing squads. Che Guevara oversaw the courts. Even today, historians argue over the number of executions and over what was justice and what was revenge. In the same period, Cuba grew closer to the Soviet Union, and in 1962 the world held its breath during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when Soviet missiles were placed on the island, just 90 miles from the United States. Che Guevara did not believe that the fight should stop in Cuba. For him, the enemies of the poor were the same everywhere: the capitalist system, the empire, the old order. He wrote long letters arguing that the guerrilla must create the revolution wherever the oppressor is. In 1965, he disappeared from public life. He went in secret to Africa, to the Congo, to train rebel armies fighting against the country's government. It went badly. The guerrilla war failed in the jungle. Many of his men fell ill or died, and he withdrew his troops in retreat. Now he set his sights on South America. Late in 1966, he entered Bolivia in disguise, hoping to light a fire that would spread across the whole continent. But the Bolivian campaign went badly from the start. The peasants did not join him, and the army, trained and advised by American specialists, slowly cornered his small group in the mountains. On the 8th of October, 1967, Che Guevara was wounded and captured in a small, remote mountain ravine. He was taken to the little village schoolhouse of La Higuera in southern Bolivia. He was held there overnight, and on the morning of the 9th of October, he was executed. His body was shown to the press, and then he was buried in an unmarked grave at a secret location. Years later, in 1997, his remains were discovered, brought back to Cuba, and laid to rest with honor beneath a memorial in the city of Santa Clara. The man was 39 years old. He had spent barely a decade in the public eye. His whole short life had been a strange mixture of medicine, adventure, politics, and armed struggle. Now we return to that face. The famous picture was taken in Havana on the 5th of March 1960 by a photographer named Alberto Korda, who worked for the revolution. Che happened to step into the crowd at just the right moment, and Korda took 2 quick frames. For years, no one saw the photo, and it was not published. But after his death in 1967, the image exploded around the world. It was reproduced on posters, banners, stamps, mugs, t-shirts, and album covers. Museums in London and New York called it the most widely reproduced photograph in the world. And here is why the face is remembered. Che Guevara was the rare revolutionary who died young, handsome, and unchanged, before his ideals could be tested by success. People could project on him whatever they wanted: a hero of the poor, a romantic fighter, a poster rebel, or, for many, an executioner, a militarist, a man whose utopia failed. He remains one of the most contradictory and passionate figures of the 20th century. He was born in one country, became a citizen of another, and dreamed of a continent without borders. The man is gone, but the face, the symbol, belongs to the entire world, and it will keep on speaking for as long as people dream and disagree about what it means.